Salutatorian Award as a second-ranking academic student in the senior class and welcome him to the stage to present his salutatory speech.
Let me tell you, I've lost way too much sleep over this speech. For the longest time, I was just trying to figure out something, anything that I could write about. At one point, I finally gave up and I just started texting people, begging them for help. I distinctly remember one point on Tuesday night when I was texting 5 people at the same time, in dire need of advice and some sort of direction. And you know, they all said this and that, and thanked the parents and talk about the future. And when each one was finished not giving me any advice, each one said, "Oh, and let me know if I can help." So needless to say, I was at square one far too many times and for far too long when trying to write this speech. And I hate to say it, but it's still not where I'd like it to be, and maybe it never could. Who knows if there's a specific set of words which, when strung together, could form a speech fitting enough to send off a class as amazing as this one. I hope, for your sake and mine, that I found at least a few of these words. But anyways, right now I'd like to take a second to outline why we're here and to celebrate who we're here to celebrate. You guys remember 2 weeks from last Wednesday? It's quite possible not. It was the day when the mysterious epidemic struck the senior class for 24 hours. A senior sick day. It was that morning when they called a mandatory senior class meeting regarding graduation. While there, Mr. Buckley outlined some guidelines regarding a senior prank, which, to the best of my knowledge, has yet to happen and probably won't. Kudos to you, Mr. Buckley. Well played. But one of the consequences for breaking one of those guidelines was that we wouldn't get to walk at graduation. And of course, we're all thinking, hey, I won't even care if I get to walk. I'm still going to be graduating. Which leads me to why we're here and whom we're celebrating. As much as we all think we're here celebrating the senior class, partying it up in grand style, well, that's not exactly why we're here today. We are gathered here today to celebrate the amazing accomplishments of those people who have kicked us in the butt hard enough and slapped our wrists often enough to get us to graduate. We're here for the parents. We're here for the teachers. We're here for every person who's made a difference in our lives. So it's right about now that I'd like to get a resounding hurrah for all those who played an instrumental role in getting us this far. And while we're all still here, I guess I could give a few words to the senior class too. First, there's one friend of mine to whom I'd like to give a personal shout out. Funny story. He caught up with me one day recently after school, all excited, perhaps a bit too excited as some of us know him to be. And he asked me a question. He asked me, Jake, what's your GPA? What's your GPA? And I responded, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's low enough that I won't have to give a speech at graduation. And of course, he's like, I don't know, Jake, I don't know. Let's go check it out. And so he drags me down the hallway to Mrs. Losey's room and has her pull up both of our transcripts. Of course, by now, I'm sure many of you have caught on that this friend of mine is my crazy eccentric friend Benny Singh, sitting right here in the front row. And it turns out that after 7 semesters of attending high school together, our GPAs differed by 0.002. 2 thousandths. So then we ran back down to Miss Ware's room because I needed to ask her a question, but the entire way there we're trying to figure out whose GPA is going to be higher after 8 semesters. And I don't know whether to use the word fortunately or unfortunately here, because fortunately, we don't have to suffer through one of Benny's speeches. But unfortunately, now I'm going to have to hold this over his head for the entire foreseeable future. So thank you, Benny. You really were the best. Thanks for being there to make these 4 years amazing. Oh, and by the way, you still haven't bought my fan shirt. But really, all jokes aside, this really is quite the accomplishment. I never would have thought that after 4, and in many cases 6 years, trapped inside this brick dungeon of a school, we managed to make it out with almost all of our sanity. Honestly though, I can't have been the only one to have been driven crazy by those bricks. I mean, what did West have to do to get such a nice school? Everyone knows we're better than them. But anyways, let me take you back to freshman year, the year many of us saw these bricks for the first time. Walking down the hallways, you've got red bricks and white cinder blocks, and every time you really take the time to look at these little monstrosities, you think if it weren't for these bricks, I'd be able to get out of this bubble of a city. The 1 hour of relief from these bricks came when I finally got to Mrs. Sager's room. And yes, I did just call Miss Sager's room a relief, but we'll get there. As you step up to her room, you read the note above the door that says, "Walk forward into the light." And so yeah, this seems like a pretty good idea, sure. But then you cross the precipice and tumble into a world filled with Macbeth and blurry green movies and comma packets. And you arrive at the darkness, I might even venture to say the heart of darkness, that surrounds 9th grade honors English. When I mentioned this class was a relief, why? Because of the bricks that lined her room, each one painted creatively. Decorated by past senior AP Lit students, her room was literally dripping with inspirational quotes and encouraging sayings. I was personally touched by these bricks. Of course, I spent more time during class staring at them than I'd like to admit, so I came to know more than a few of them quite well. Some of my favorites are, "They say that time changes things, but actually, you have to change them yourself," by Andy Warhol. "I never let my schooling interfere with my education," by Mark Twain. And Miss Sager's personal favorite, strewn in large lettering across front and center of the room, "Dazzle and delight me with your insight and your eloquence." And so the years progress, sophomore, junior, and finally senior years, all bringing a new set of classes and a new set of teachers, but the bricks were still there, still blocking our passage from entering the world at large. But then I remembered a quote that I had read once in a book entitled The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. "The brick walls are there for a reason. They're not there to keep us out. They're there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. They're there to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. They're there to stop the other people." So I guess this is my final message. Never let a brick wall stand in your way, blocking your hopes, your dreams, your future. Once you leave behind the brick walls in Eisenhower, you will most assuredly encounter more, each one taller and harder to scale than the last. So if you have a question, find the answer. Don't look for a shortcut, just work hard. Never give up, and don't be afraid to take a boost when offered. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if you want it badly enough, and you're ready to prove it, you will trounce every brick wall that blocks your passage. Thank you, class of 2013. Keep it classy.
Now seems like a perfect time prior to introducing our next speaker to recognize